Anyway, this week's fallen mediocre club is it's a team that's had just about more names than almost had more names than wins that chalked up. It's a team that comes from what's known as the elephant graveyard of Australian professional sport. You can probably guess what it is now. It is none other than the Gold Coast Chargers. Can you see the logo on the screen?
I can see it. I wish I couldn't.
Now, when I say Chargers, I actually, should clarify / Gold Coast Tweed Giants.
That's about 1,000 times better than the other one. That's wonderful. Looks a bit superhero Marvel Comics bursting off the page.
Yeah, it is. / Gold Coast Seagulls.
Well, that looks like a VFA side, 1980s.
Yep.
That's cool.
/ the Gold Coast Gladiators. This was actually their logo for 3
months.
Not
a logo. That is a badly pixelated sprite from an old computer game. That's someone playing Ultima in the 1980s. Gold Coast, get your act together. What the hell is that?
Yeah. Anyway, well, only 3 months. We'll go into this. We'll leave it on the Chargers logo while I speak, because that was obviously.
Oh, please, because
they're final name.
I definitely wanted to get a headache from looking at that, but go on. Sorry, I went into.
All right. So Gold Coast came into the NSWRL in 1998 as part of the 3-pronged expansion. So when Brisbane, Newcastle came in at the same time, there was a so-called international syndicate comprising of John Sattler, Bob Hagan, and Peter Gallagher, who are all former Australian players who spearheaded the bid. However, they initially they were bidding for Brisbane. I guess they must have been bidding against the Broncos consortium or whoever that was. It failed, so they turned their attention to the Gold Coast, and they got the Gold Coast bid across the line. However, the Brisbane Broncos had exclusivity to the southeast of Queensland, so the Gold Coast had to base themselves just across the border in New South Wales in Tweed Heads. So their original name were the Gold Coast Tweed Giants, is what they called themselves for the first few seasons. They played in a grey, black and white jersey, kind of similar to the Tweed Head Seagulls. Now, who are the Tweed Head Seagulls? So they were basically, it was the Seagulls Leagues Club was the main financial backer of the Gold Coast Tweed Giants. And also they're linked, obviously, to the Tweed Heads Seagulls, who are very quite proud, old, historic rugby league team that plays in the QRL. So the idea was they were going to, that the Seagulls had a stadium, they had fans, they had the financial backing of the league clubs. But by calling themselves Gold Coast, they thought they would potentially open up a bit of corporate support and sponsorship. So hence why they had that Gold Coast in their name. Now, according to Wikipedia, they were a team with a foot in both New South Wales and Queensland, yet failed to be truly accepted by either. So they were kind of like a half breed that nobody really wanted. Do you know what made me think of, Dubs? Do you remember the Wog Boy?
I do, yes.
Tony the Yugoslav, that famous line. I'm
yes.
half Serbian, I'll put the accent on. I'm half Serbian, half Croatian. I wake up in the morning, I want to kill myself. So killing you is no problem, fucking. So they're basically the Tony the Yugoslav of Australian Rugby League. They were kind of half Queensland, half New South Wales. No one really wanted them because they weren't pure breed.
Very confused at origin time, surely.
Yeah, and I think that's really the heart of the Gold Coast. We're going to go through all their name changes and colour changes and changing stadiums. They never really had an identity. And you think basing yourselves off this, this Tweed, having this leverage of this Tweed Head Seagull club, they could have really used that, but they never did. Anyway, they weren't very successful at all. They were really mediocre. So 88, they were 15th out of 16. 89, they were 14th out of 16. 1990 came their first name change. So they dropped Tweed and changed their nickname to the Gold Coast Seagulls, changed their colours to red, black and white. They kept playing, however, at Seagulls Stadium, which is in Tweed in New South Wales. But they still finished 15th in 1990 out of 16. Now, 1991 brought a lot of hope as Wally the King Lewis joined the club after having a fallout with Wayne Bennett at the Broncos. 1992, he was famously captain coach. And then in 1990, at the end of 92, he stepped down from playing and just decided to coach the Gold Coast in 93. However, those 3 years, Gold Coast won 3 consecutive spoons in a row. So even Wally Lewis couldn't change their fortunes. 94, they went one better, finishing second last. And then in 95, with the expanded ARL, which had 20 teams that year, they finished 17th out of 20, which was at that stage their best finish. End of 95, the Seagulls Leagues clubs withdrew its financial support as the ARL News Limited battle clouded the future of the game so much that no one was really willing to back them financially. So it was very difficult to find someone who was going to step in. So it looked like the club was going to fold until local property millionaire and entrepreneur Jeff Mueller stepped in around mid-December 1995 and took control of the club. So he was only in control for 3 months. So in his time, he moved the club to the Gold Coast, dropping the whole connection with Tweed. Obviously, the Seagulls had pulled out. Moved them to Carrara Stadium, which is now Metricon Stadium, and changed their name to the Gold Coast Gladiators. And it was under his leadership they famously changed their colours to, this is quote wiki, jade, black, purple, and gold, which is what they had for the rest of their.
Yeah.
If you remember those Gold Coast Chargers jerseys, that was basically this guy. Well, it wasn't him. I'll explain exactly who came up with that idea. So he was only in charge for 3 months, and it got me. I did a bit of surface level digging to find out what actually happened. So after 3 months, the ARL revoked his license before the start of the 96 season, and then the ARL ran the club. But in that short period, that 3-month period, under Mueller's reign, the Gold Coast actually won their first ever, and this is the Gold Coast's first ever sporting trophy, I guess. They won the World Sevens preseason tournament as the Gold Coast Gladiators. Anyway, and then, the ARL took over. So I found an article with, it was in 2010, just before the Titans preliminary final. I think that was Titans' best ever season. And it was interviewing Jeff Mueller, going back to the old Gold Coast Chargers, etc. days. So this is what the article wrote. So, quote, 3 months, a World Sevens preseason title, a handful of chief executives, 5 coaches, and some court battles later, Mueller's license would be revoked by the ARL. So I think he was a bit of a flamboyant character, like just sacking people, hiring people. And I think the ARL thought it was going to turn into a bit of a basket case. So they took control. Here's another quote from that article. Quote, legend has it that Mueller's wife, Lynn, even helped pick the side based on the presentation of the players' posteriors, although the man himself says that's an urban myth. And this is Jeff Mueller, quote, she didn't pick the team. She actually did the jerseys. When we walked onto the stadium, the crowd went berserk with the colours. It was fantastic, something different, the colours, the design. So it was his wife that came up with that crazy monstrosity of a jersey. Anyway, so the ARL take over just before the 96 season. They changed the name to the Chargers. I don't know why. I thought Gladiators is a fine name.
Better name than Chargers, especially if it appears to be an electrical charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even sure why.
Yeah, exactly. But they kept the color scheme. So obviously I like the color scheme, the jade, purple, whatever else those colors were. 96, it was business as usual. They finished 18th out of 20. Then 1997 came. So obviously Gold Coast was playing ARL. And that was their best ever season. They finished 7th out of 12. They scraped into the finals for the one and only time in their history. They upset the 6th place Illawarra Steelers in the first week of the finals before being beaten by the Sydney City Roosters the following week. So they survived the cull when obviously Super League and ARL merged to form the 1998 NRL season. This is a quote from that RL 1908 website, which is defunct. I actually had to get one of those way back time machine things to get this quote. Quote, the better than expected finish to the season also deflected talks of mergers with the rapidly ending South Queensland Crushers and Hunter Mariners. The Chargers were included into the NRL's 20-team competition for 98, and with their finances now in a sound position, home crowds improving and pleasing on-field results, the club seemed on the rise. However, as we know, 1998 was atrocious. I can't remember. I forgot to actually, I think they finished last or second last again. Crowds were down. And, the Storm Link, we played them once in our history. Unfortunately, there was no cup to play for. But we beat them. We handed out their biggest ever defeat in their history, 62-6. That was on a May 31st at Olympic Park back in 98. And here's another quote from the RL website. So at the end of 98. So while the Chargers thought they had another season to position themselves for the 2014 team competition, they ultimately paid dearly for their 1998 results. The St. George and Illawarra joint venture triggered further concessions between News Limited and ARL. News Limited withdrew its financial support from the Adelaide Rams, and the ARL, who was still in control of the Chargers, decided to close the Gold Coast club down. And then that was the end of the Gold Coast. But, you know, as we know, basically as soon as the Gold Coast Chargers was dead, I think people got together and tried to get another Gold Coast team. And 9 years later, we had the Titans, who have, you know, in the context of things, have actually done pretty well. The fact that they're still around and they haven't changed their name or their colours or stadium in 13 years, you know, I mean, they did change their stadium. They went from Carrara to the new Robina Stadium, but that was obviously a positive thing. So that's the Chargers. And obviously, the one player the Chargers, I think we all should know this as Storm fans, that gave us was Marcus Bai. He actually came to us from the Gold Coast. So let's have a quick flick through the pictures. So that's the old, can you see that stadium, Dubs?
See it perfectly.
Yeah, that's Carrara or Metricon, for obviously got its facelift.
It's actually a reasonably cleaned up version of that version of Carrara compared to what it was in, say, 92, 93-ish when the Brisbane Bears were playing up there. But yeah. Cleaned up version of what became the new Carrara.
Yes, yeah.
Is now Metricon Stadium, which is much nicer.
Yep. This is a nice sort of collection of the various Gold Coast jerseys over the years.
So they've been about 4 different teams. That is just, you can't change.
Yes. 4 names in 11 seasons.
That would be, maybe they were looking at the AFL, who around that time had brought in, within a couple of years, Port Adelaide, Port Power, and the Fremantle Dockers. It looks like somebody ate a Dockers jersey and a Power jersey and vomited them out. That's what you end up with that thing. That is, yeah,
not
great.
That's a good one.
Not great.
And here's Marcus Bai in 1997 playing for Gold Coast. Here's their mascot, Captain Charger.
What is that? That is it. Speaking of Marvel Comics, that's like the Marvel Comics character that got rejected. That's not great.
It's very 90s, very 90s. Here are them. Check out that mullet on the far right.
That's outstanding. That's ridiculous. The whole club slightly.
And I'm pretty here second from the left. I'm pretty sure that's Preston Campbell.
Looks like him. Could be wrong. Yeah. It's not him.
Yeah. Now, this is one of the rare photos of them as the Gladiators. If you can see sorry, I didn't get this photo bucket watermark. This is them winning the Sevens tournament. And as you can see, they've got the Gladiators logo. Those jerseys will be worth a lot for the Gold Coast diehards. So that was them with the Sevens trophy. This is just a team photo. I thought Marcus Bai was in here, but he's not. Ben Gonzalez, don't know who this guy is, but I don't know. I just liked it how he's wearing the Giants, but it's the Seagulls up in the corner.
That's fantastic. So
there's the Seagulls. Sorry, the Giants, but they're obviously sponsored by Seagulls, which, you know, confuse things. There's another Giants jersey. This was the Seagulls Stadium. So nice little boutique ground.
Tweed Heads.
Yeah, that's Tweed Heads. There's Wally Lewis.
Wally Lewis looks so wrong in that outfit.
Yeah. Another one of King Wally playing for the Seagulls. This was 2014. So this was, I don't know, some Gold Coast remembering their history or something.
I'm sure that was done with affection to their past. I'm not sure it had the desired effect. It kind of just more looks like, look how much we've killed clubs in the past.
Yeah.
And they don't think of the 80s.
Yeah, and that's it. That's all I have for the Gold Coast Chargers. So, yeah.
Outstanding work, Mr. Poll. That is some wonderful research. And I hope the listeners are enjoying, or the viewers rather, are enjoying this walk through a bit of NSWRL, Super League, ARL, NRL history here, because I'm learning quite a lot about names that were kind of just gimmicks and buzzwords, or, good memories of things I remember from when the Melbourne Storm first came around. So that's probably one where we can see where some mistakes were made.
Yeah, and shout out to the Adelaide Rams Twitter account. I tweeted at them and they tweeted back. It's on. We want the Southern States Cup back.
Mate, we've 22 years in counting, Adelaide Rams. Get a team together.
Adelaide's been stewing for 22 years. They want that cup back.